30 workers at a Starbucks in Nichols Hill, Oklahoma, they have apparently filed to decertify the union there, Starbucks Workers United.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Last Week in Southern Labor is a segment that we do every week, mostly, where we tell you what happened in the labor movement in the South. We pull the information from Jonah Furman's newsletter, Who Gets the Bird, which compiles all of this information for the entire United States. So if you want to see what's going on outside of the South, then subscribe to that newsletter at whogetsthebird.substack.com. And with that, let's jump into new organizing for the week of October 15th through the 22nd. 63 workers at whiskey maker Woodford Reserve in Versailles, Kentucky are unionizing with Teamsters Local 651. 10 helicopter mechanics at Fort Hood, Texas are joining the machinists. 14 digital optimization team workers for news giant Gannett in Louisville, Kentucky are joining the Indianapolis News Guild. Workers who produce TV commercials have won a neutrality agreement through IATSE with the Employers Association. They'll still have to win an election to win a union, but agreeing on some ground rules is a very important part of that process. In wins and losses, in Charlotte, North Carolina, 61 drivers for U.S. Foods voted 28-24 to join the Teamsters. 39 workers at 2 more shops, including one in Denison, Texas, voted to join Starbucks Workers United, 24-7 all told. 17 workers for Maytag Aircraft in Fort Worth, Texas, voted unanimously, 10-0, to join the machinists. 30 workers at a Starbucks in Nichols Hill, Oklahoma, which is kind of on the boundary, but this is such an important story that I figured I'd include it in the roundup. They have apparently filed to decertify the union there, Starbucks Workers United. And that is a store which was only officially organized in May. Now, decertification votes are not valid within the first year. You can't decertify your union until a year after you win the union. You have to wait at least that long before you can vote to decertify. And it's the same thing if you lose an election. If you have a union election and then you lose the election, you can't try to get another vote until at least a year later. Same thing if you win a union. You have to wait until a year. And so with that being the case and the amount of open, unfair labor practices, both at that store in particular and nationally, means that this petition is almost certainly going to be thrown out. But it's a sign of what's to come at stores across the country as the employer continues its scorched earth campaign at Starbucks. In strikes and bargaining, Starbucks workers sue management in Anderson, South Carolina for defamation for filing a false police report accusing them, let's remember, of kidnapping and assault. Kidnapping and assault for talking to the manager.
Very scary stuff, very scary.
Insane. So Starbucks workers are suing management at that location, and good for them. Hope they get some money out of that. In Alabama, the West Rock paper mill lockout of about 500 steelworker members continues, and the Working People podcast has the story from me. I went down to the picket line and interviewed five workers who are locked out from the picket line. You can actually hear cars driving past us as we do the interview. So go to the Working People podcast feed and you can check out those interviews. Further south, several hundred longshoremen with ILA, the International Longshore Association, Local 1410, in Mobile, Alabama, were set to strike but had a last-minute deal through federal mediation that has, for now, postponed the action, per The Guardian's Michael Sonato. Transit workers with the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1447 in Louisville have authorized a potentially illegal strike by 95% as they push for a 3-year contract with 21% raises. So here's to them. In politics and legislation, we had one update. The Prince William County, Virginia School District has become the latest Virginia jurisdiction to pass a collective bargaining ordinance. But union activists are decrying it as weak, both in terms of holding formal elections and in the actual bargaining that it allows for. In internal union politics, UAW members are officially voting in the first ever direct elections for national officers in the union. It's very unclear how many members are going to vote. In last year's referendum that led to this election, remember there was a referendum before on whether to vote, right? They had a vote on whether they were going to vote on the top officers. And that turnout was only 14%. So, and because the Constitutional Convention rejected ranked choice voting, there are likely to be runoffs in 2023 for at least the top spot, the international president, where 5 candidates are running. The incumbent Ray Curry, the Members United Reform challenger Sean Fain, the very active on Facebook Brian Keller, the World Socialist website candidate Will Lehman, and UAW Local 163 leader Mark Gibby Gibson are challenging. They're all vying for that one spot. And there's probably going to be at least a runoff for the vice president position as well, where 8 candidates are vying for 3 spots. In Region 9A, where UAW Members United candidate Brandon Mansilla is going up against incumbent Administration Caucus candidate Beverly Brakeman, some members are not receiving ballots. Not great. The 65,000 members of the Airline Pilots Association have a new president after a contested election. As part of the extended fallout from the ongoing contentious rail negotiations, Reese Murtaugh, a local chairman out of Machinists Local Lodge 696 out of Richmond, Virginia, is planning to challenge incumbent Kyle Luce for the presidency of Machinists District Lodge 19, which is the 6,000-member district of rail machinists, around 4,000 of whom work on freight railroads covered under the ongoing negotiations. Hamilton Nolan has another great column over at In These Times, this time on the UFCW International's mealy-mouthed response to the proposed Kroger-Albertsons merger and that union's general weakness. At 1.2 million members, Hamilton makes the point in his article, at 1.2 million members, the UFCW really should be, really has the ability, it seems like, to be leading the labor movement in more ways than it is, and it just does not seem to be the case. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m., and we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.